Hey, everybody want to have a seat? We're ready to start the meeting.
You have to say that a little louder.
The meeting is going to start. Yes. Okay. Okay, welcome all to the Kingston Centre members and to those who are on Zoom as well as in person. This meeting will be posted on YouTube within a day or so you can catch the replay. I would like to give a land acknowledgement. Queen's University is situated on the territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabeg Nations, and we respect the land that we meet on. So for a few center announcements, we have new members to the RASC Kingston Centre: Sophia Nepal, Stephen White, and Jamie Morales. Welcome. Not sure if they're here or online, but welcome. And the center is doing something new. We're going to have a new members Zoom night on April 19th at 6:30 before our regular social time, so that new members can just come on if they have questions and not feel left out in the cold. So we'll welcome them with our
overwhelmed by the masses.
Yes, overwhelmed by the masses. Okay, and then of course on Wednesday night that our meeting isn't on, we have our social Zoom time. And an email will be sent to the center chat list. So if you're not on the chat list and you would like to, either send us an email or join the center list. Queen's University Open House is this Saturday at 7 p.m. And Derek Mueller will be returning to Queens. And apparently the talk is now at Sterling Hall. And we are also looking for some volunteers for the deck. Weather dependent, but the telescope is on site. And we have a couple of volunteers that will be manning scopes, but we could always use more people out. The science fair was held March 30th and 31st. And thank you to Graham Hay and to Bruce Elliott for being the judges at this year's event. The winner of the Leo Enright Prize in Astronomy was a junior at Leahurst College, Rihanna Kosman, with her telescope project. And we actually have the link that I can send out to the list. And I do believe that Bruce did send out all of the projects that the center or that the science fair had. So you can actually go online and look at each individual project. Next up is the Science Rendezvous is on Saturday, May 13th at the Leon Center. Start time is at 9:40 a.m. We'll be setting up probably at about 9 o'clock, and it goes until 3. Chris Wyman will be opening the ceremonies. And with that, I will now turn to David Levy, who is going to introduce us with a poem.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be here and to see, at least virtually, the room that was so familiar when I was a graduate student at Queens. My poem today will be by former United States President Jimmy Carter, who is right now living in hospice at his home. He wrote this poem in 1994. He was president of the United States from 1977 to 1981 during the Voyager years. When I behold the charm of evening skies, their lulling endurance, the patterns of stars with names of bears and dogs, a swan, a virgin, other planets that the Voyager showed were like and so unlike our own, with all their diverse moons, bright disks, weird rings, and cratered faces. Comets with their streaming tails, one of which collided with Jupiter. I just threw that line in. High pressure from our sun, the skyscape of our Milky Way, holding in its shimmering disk an infinity of suns, sharing our travel adventures and celebrating our planet through poetry, or say 1,000 billion. Knowing there are holes of darkness, gulping mass and even light, knowing that this galaxy of ours is one of multitudes in what we call the heavens. It troubles me. It troubles me. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we are going to have our guest speaker, and I'll do a small introduction. Professor Kristine Larsen has a PhD, a MS, and a BA in physics from the University of Connecticut. Kristine is the professor of the Earth and Space Sciences Department at Central Connecticut State University, New Britain, Connecticut. She's also the director of the CCSU Honors Program, co-chair of the AVSO Solar Section, past first VP and president of the AVSO, and is currently the secretary. She has received many awards and honors, and when not active in teaching or astronomy, she can be found at the Tolkien Gateway, as you can see by some of the friends that she has behind her. So with that, Kristine, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Kim. And I have to give a shout out to Kim, my right-hand woman in the solar section. Cannot do it without Kim. So I want to talk to you tonight about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, the role of women in astronomy. Could talk for days on this. Want to give you a little bit of a taste. And I do just want to say that I am getting over bronchitis. I'm having a good day today, but I will probably have to take a few sips of liquid as we go along. So I'm not usually one to quote Mao Zedong, but he did say women hold up half the sky. And in some cultures, women held up all of the sky. For example, ancient Egypt, the goddess Nut, her body held up the heavens. Just trying to get my mouse here to work. Okay. But if we fast forward to something a little bit more current, hopefully you've heard of Maria Mitchell. Maria Mitchell is generally credited at being the first American woman astronomer. She was a librarian for 24 years on her native Nantucket Island, and she came to world fame for discovering a comet in 1847. And based on the same, she became the first astronomy professor at Vassar College. Now, hopefully you know that Vassar College was one of the 7 sister institutions, colleges for women in the Northeast United States, that gave a lot of incredible opportunities to women starting in the 1800s. And Maria Mitchell was never fearful of speaking her mind of what she thought about women in science. I love this particular quote of hers, that women are needed in scientific work for the very reason that a woman's method is different from that of a man. All her nice perceptions of minute details, all her delicate observations of color, form, shape, change, and her capability of patient routine would be of immense value in the collection of scientific facts. Now, to be one of Maria's students made you incredibly special. She would say that she didn't want to give grades because you could not measure intellect with a grade, with a number. She wanted her students to reach their potential by doing hands-on real science. For example, we see them observing here in these lovely outfits. Thankfully, I don't have to wear that when I observe. And she actually took students out to Wyoming to see a total eclipse of the sun. They published their computations and their observations in the astronomy journals of the day. And 4 of her students actually became astronomers. Mary Whitney succeeded her at Vassar. Carolyn Furness then succeeded Mary Whitney and became the first woman to receive a PhD from Columbia. Margaretta Palmer was the first woman to receive a PhD in astronomy in America. And for her thesis project at Yale, she actually worked on Maria Mitchell's comet. And Antonia Mori, who we'll see in a couple of minutes, worked at the Harvard College Observatory on spectroscopy. So these women received a great education under their mentorship. But what were they going to do after that? Because there were limited job opportunities for women in astronomy in the late 1800s, other than teaching. But then the major observatories opened up sort of a factory model where they had computers, people, to do the very patient routine data crunching that needed to be done. And they found that they could hire a lot of very intelligent, well-educated women. The women could be paid a third of what men would expect, and they would do what they were told. One of the first major observatory directors to hire women was Arthur Searle, the acting director of the Harvard College Observatory. This included the relatives of two of his astronomers. So what did he look for in the women he was hiring? A knowledge of ordinary arithmetic, I could do that, and legible handwriting, nope, are all that's necessary qualifications. Although, of course, the more that is known of languages and mathematics, the better. But when you think about women working at Harvard, you probably think of this gentleman, Edward C. Pickering. Now, some people think of Pickering as though he was this feminist, trailblazer who was opening up astronomy to women. He was a very shrewd director of his observatory. This is one quote from him that I would like to share with you. Cannot the vacuity of many feminine lives be filled by the prosecution of some scientific work to the advantage of science and society? I'll let that stay on its own. But it is true that over his career, he hired about 40 women as computers at Harvard. Now, not all other astronomers thought this was a good idea, and the pejorative Pickering's harem became applied to these women. They earned about 25 cents an hour. Sometimes it got increased. They worked about 7 hours a day, 6 days a week. They could also do some work from home. Hey, COVID telecommuting a century ago. And you probably know that the bulk of their work was analyzing and classifying the data. They were not supposed to do the original research. They were doing what they were told. If you want to know a lot about these women, Dava Sobel's book, The Glass Universe, is a great reference. But it takes money to hire people, even at 25 cents an hour. So another very important woman in the history of American astronomy was Anna Draper. Anna Draper was actually born in Stonington, Connecticut, that way from where I am here. And she married a New York doctor, Dr. Henry Draper. And she was very interested in astronomy as well, probably due to his influence. There is a story that their wedding trip to New York City was, the highlight was buying glass for the telescope. And their goal was to not only get the first photograph of a stellar spectrum, which they did in 1872, but to eventually put together a catalog, a photographic catalog of stellar spectra. Unfortunately, even though he was a doctor, apparently he didn't take care of himself, and he died of pneumonia fairly young. After his death, Anna tried to carry on the work herself, was unable to, and eventually donated money to the Harvard College Observatory to fund a memorial project to carry on this work. So, you are the director of Harvard. You have fallen into a huge pile of money. You can hire people now. You hire people on the cheap. Now you've got to get somebody to direct the project. He finds that the men at Harvard aren't quite living up to what he would like, and he gets frustrated. And supposedly, he says, my maid can do a better job. Well, we don't know if he said that, but he did hire his maid to direct the project. This was Wilhelmina Patton Fleming, a Scottish woman who emigrated to the US with her husband. Her and her husband separated. She was left with a young child. She worked in Pickering's household. He was impressed with her work ethic and put her in charge of classifying stellar spectra. So here we have her watching over some of the other women. You can see that there are glass photographic plates, and they are looking at them with a magnifying glass. The very first project that she directed, they classified over 10,000 stars. They came up with a classification system, which, as it turns out, roughly classified the stars based on the strength of the hydrogen lines. She did have some feminist leanings to her. This was a pamphlet that she put out for the World Fair. It's called, the article is called "A Field for Women's Work in Astronomy." While we cannot maintain that in everything woman is man's equal, yet in many things her patience, perseverance, and method make her his superior. And then she goes on to say that hopefully the field will open up for women. Well, it didn't quite open up so fast, but other women were hired at Harvard. Among them was Anna Draper's niece, Antonia Mori. She, remember, was a student of Maria Mitchell, and her sister Carlotta actually became a paleontologist. According to the late Dorrit Hofflight, Antonia was one of the most original thinkers that Pickering employed, and she really wanted to do actual research. But Pickering got irritated with her and kept having to keep telling her to focus on what he was telling her to do. So she came up with her own independent way of organizing the spectral classes, and it turned out that it was from hot to cool, similar to what we have today. But she also found something really interesting. These are the spectra of two stars of the same temperature. Take a look at those photographs. Do the spectra look the same to you? Hopefully you're shaking your head. This top one has very thin, narrow lines, and the bottom one has wider, fuzzier lines. Now, she didn't know what was causing that, but she knew it was an important property of the stars, and she wanted to include it in her classification, and she called it the C characteristic. But Pickering was going to have none of it. This was too complicated, didn't like it. Annie Jump Cannon, who was doing her own project, looking at a different set of stars, she also came to Harvard, having studied under a famous woman astronomer, Sarah Whiting. She actually had a master's degree from Radcliffe, and she was known as a very sweet woman who got along well with everybody, sort of the opposite of Antonia Mori. She took the original Fleming classes, reordered them also by temperature, and threw out some of the extraneous ones, leaving us with the system that you've probably seen, OBAFGKM. And so astronomy students throughout the world have to memorize this, and they come up with all sorts of, mnemonic devices. The original one was actually, one of the original ones was very sexist. Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. Some professors have contests with their students to come up with their own. There was one, I can't remember the whole thing, but it's at the end they say Godzilla kills Mothra, which I thought was pretty interesting. I wish I could remember the rest of it. Now, on her own, Annie Cannon classified over 350,000 stars, but she was not given an official position of her own at the observatory at Harvard. And a visiting committee was looking at what was going on at the observatory and said it was an anomaly that though she is recognized in the world over as the greatest living expert, she holds no official position in the university. So women were very famous for their work. It was getting published. A lot of it was published under their own names, but yet they did not have the power of even a faculty position. So what happened to Antonia Maury's system, which was considered too complicated by Pickering? It was published and other scientists looked at it. And Ejnar Hertzsprung from Denmark, he read the paper and realized that she really had discovered something important. Turns out that the difference in spectral lines had to do with the different pressures inside the stellar atmospheres and the densities of the stars, which in turn is related to the difference between a regular main sequence star like our sun and a giant swollen red giant star. She had actually discovered, but didn't know it, that stars came in different sizes. Hertzsprung was on the cusp. He actually was one of the two people who really discovered this on their own. And he wrote to Pickering saying, this is really important work. You really should encourage her and you should publish more of it. And as he said in one of the letters, to neglect this difference in the spectral lines is like ignoring the difference between a whale and a fish. Dorrit Hoffleit, in her, if you knew Dorrit had a way with words, she would laugh and say about Pickering, it wasn't that Pickering couldn't see the difference, he was miffed that Maury was the one who discovered it. So here we have the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram that you've probably seen, classify stars by temperature or spectral class on the x-axis and the luminosity or energy output on the y-axis. And we have the majority of stars in our galaxy, the main sequence. We have the dead corpse, the white dwarfs, and then we have the giants and the supergiants. And again, if it had been a different quirk of fate, it might have been the Hertzsprung-Russell-Maury diagram. But one organization that from the beginning did value the contributions of women has been the AAVSO. The AAVSO started as a pro-am collaboration in 1911. The first formal meeting was in 1917 at Harvard. And that first meeting was really a who's who of astronomy of the day. You had Professor Anne Sewell Young from Mount Holyoke. You had, of course, E.C. Pickering. You had two here of the famous computers, Annie Cannon and Henrietta Leavitt, who discovered Leavitt's law, the fact that the pulsations of Cepheid variables could be used to find their true luminosity, and from that we can find distances to galaxies. Leah Allen, who was a Hood College professor, and William Tyler Olcott from Norwich, Connecticut, a famous amateur. The first AAVSO director was Margaret Mayall, a woman, and she caught the variable star bug from 2 summers working as a student on Nantucket at what became known as the Maria Mitchell Observatory. After Maria Mitchell's death, to honor her, the women of Nantucket built an observatory in her honor, and this is where there was a summer program, because you don't want to go to Nantucket in the winter. This is where they have a summer program for students. So Maria Mitchell went there in the summer and then became the director of both the Maria Mitchell Observatory and the AVSO. Another person who became director of the Maria Mitchell Observatory and held many roles in the AVSO is the aforementioned Dorrit Hoffleit. Dorrit Hoffleit got her first degree at Radcliffe, then went on to Harvard College Observatory for work because she didn't think that she was smart enough to get a bachelor's, to get anything beyond a bachelor's degree, because her entire life she had been compared to her brilliant older brother, Herbert. At Harvard, Bart Bach and Harlow Shapley told her how smart she was and encouraged her to get a master's and eventually a PhD. And so here we have at the AVSO meeting, we have, for example, Annie Cannon right over here, and Dorrit Hoffleit is over here, and my arrow seems to have shifted, but Shapley is over here. And so there were lots of famous people at this meeting. This is 1930, when she was beginning her master's degree under her mentors. One of the things I want you to take away from my comments today is the importance of mentors. During World War II, she did war work like a lot of the people at Harvard. After the war, she gave up her position at Harvard because she didn't like the politics. She went to Yale and worked on soft money. She had to get grants for the rest of her life and had a half-time position as the director of the Maria Mitchell Observatory. So here is the original observatory on Vestal Street, wherein hangs a portrait by one of the students of Dorrit Hoffleit. In taking over the summer program, Dorrit wanted to make sure that these women, and they were all women originally because of the sleeping situation, very close quarters in the dorms, she wanted to make sure that they would get hands-on experience in real astronomy. They would present their research at AAVSO meetings, and that they, if possible, would publish it. Towards the end, she actually did have some gentlemen, young gentlemen. To be called one of Dorrit's girls is a pride of honor to this day, even though she has been dead for many years. And one of Dorrit's girls, who is a man, is John Briggs, who some of you may know, may have heard of. So if you call John Briggs one of Dorrit's girls, he will smile and he will just gush about Dorrit Hoffleit. So Dorrit's work for the AAVSO, she held every job you could possibly think of and hosted many of the AAVSO meetings at the Maria Mitchell Observatory on Nantucket. That is important, because Dorrit would always love to tell people the story of the Nantucket fog. This was the summer meeting of the AAVSO in 1969. And one of the young girls, the assistants working with Dorrit on Nantucket, was Janet Akuya's, later Janet Maddie, was originally from Turkey. She was on Nantucket getting ready for the AAVSO meeting. Dorrit was on the mainland doing something in Boston. Dorrit could not get to the meeting because of the fog. This young girl ran the conference on her own. That not only impressed Dorrit and not only impressed Mike Maddie, who she later married, but also impressed Margaret Mayall, the director of the AAVSO. And so when she was getting ready to think about retiring, she chose Janet as her assistant. And then a year later, at age 30, Janet Maddie became the director of the AAVSO. So you never know how a little fog can affect your life. Now, the AAVSO in the 1980s, they like to call themselves the Kingdom of Women. Here's a picture of the staff. How many astronomical headquarters could have a picture like this in the 1980s? Of these women, Elizabeth Wagen, pictured here, still works for the AAVSO to this day. Now, this is where I'm going to insert myself into this story. When I was a student, I really wanted to do astrophysics, but the school I went to didn't have that. When I was applying to grad school, I went to a talk at a nearby university that I was thinking about going to grad school at, and I heard a talk from this gentleman here, Ron Millett. I was so impressed with his talk, I asked him what he was doing for research, and when he told me that what he really was doing for research was black holes, I was like, you want a grad student? And the rest is history. I went to UConn to work with Ron. He was a tremendous mentor to me. Here's me back in grad school in 1985. Oh God, I was so young. When I was finishing my PhD, I went to Stellafane, like I did every year, and I met another gentleman, Cap Hosfeld, who was who at the time was the chair of the AAVSO Solar Division. And he showed me his solar observing rig, and I'm like, well, this is really cool. And he goes, well, you can do it and you could submit your observations. And I'm like, okay. And I did. And again, the rest is history, because you all know that I am now one of the co-directors of the AAVSO Solar section. Through the AAVSO, I met Dorrit. I was starting to do work on the history of women in astronomy. I interviewed Dorrit down at Yale. We corresponded by mail. As you may or may not know, Dorrit wrote a bunch of pamphlets for the AAVSO on the history of women. Dorrit was one of my dear mentors as well. Through Dorrit, I met Janet. Janet knew that I was an astronomy professor, got me involved at the ground floor of an educational project that the AAVSO was working on called Hands-on Astrophysics. There's me in 1995. And then I started going to the annual AAVSO conferences. And then Janet said, Chris, you will run for council. And I did. And I got elected. There's me and Dorrit and Janet. And then after both Dorrit and Janet passed, unfortunately, I was asked to go up the officer rank, and I did. There's no fog in my story, but there's definitely a lot of mentors. So I have tried to be a mentor to my students, to bring them to the AAVSO, to get them involved in variable star research. And both of these young ladies are working on their PhDs right now. In fact, I think Vanessa may have just finished. So here we have two soon-to-be doctors in astronomy with their own AAVSO connection. So how are we doing? Well, there are more women getting bachelor's degrees in astronomy. There are more women getting PhDs in astronomy. Have we reached parity? No, not yet. But we're going there. We're going in the right direction. The International Astronomical Union realizes that we need to do more to get women and girls interested in astronomy, both in the amateur ranks and professionally. So we had a special Women and Girls in Astronomy push from the IAU last year. The Astronomical Society of the Pacific, on their website, they have some great resources on girl-friendly astronomy if you want to do outreach. This is work that was done in collaboration with the Girl Scouts. And some astronomy clubs have taken it upon themselves to really push to be inclusive. This was an article that I believe was Astronomy or Sky and Telescope, I can't remember, by Glenn Chappell about the ATMOBs, the Amateur Telescope Makers of Boston. If we look at amateur astronomy, there are a lot of incredible women who've done a lot of work for the field. Eileen Myers right here. She's a member of ATMOB and the Springfield Telescope Makers. She is a driving force behind a lot of behind-the-scenes work at the annual Stellafane convention. If you've ever been to Stellafane in the last decade, Eileen has really put in a lot of work to get that program that you enjoy. Noreen Grice, another woman that I'm very gifted to have met and call a friend. She is really interested in making astronomy available to people who have visual impairments and other handicaps. And she has done a lot of work on Braille astronomy books. She is the founder of You Can Do Astronomy, LLC, and is a specialist in accessible astronomy. Rachel Freed is a former high school teacher. She's now completing a PhD in astronomy education. She is a leader in trying to get students doing research using robotic telescopes. Caitlin Goulet. Oh my goodness, this young woman, she is a mover and shaker. She was elected a full member of the Springfield, Massachusetts Astronomy Club Board of Directors at like 14 years old. This young lady is amazing. She organized an astronomy club at her middle school. She has her own monthly astronomy newsletter called Starry Scoop that you can write to her and get it. And she does a constellation segment at her monthly astronomy club meeting. And Lauren Harrington of the AAVSO, she is a mover and shaker of the AAVSO ambassador program. She is up to her eyeballs in the spectroscopy section of the AAVSO. She is the one who coordinates all the AAVSO webinars. Her website is called the Tie-Dye Astronomer, and I definitely recommend it. And another person that I am very blessed to call a friend, Dr. Barbara Harris, a retired OBGYN, co-discoverer of the 2010 outburst of the Nova U Scorpii, is an active observer, astrophotographer, and a former council member for the AAVSO, and knows a whole lot more about automated telescopes than I will ever know. So these are just some of the women currently in amateur astronomy who are moving and shaking the field. And I'm sure there are some people in your club as well that I could have included in this PowerPoint, especially Kim. So if you're interested in variable stars, and I hope you are, please go to our website and look at our observing sections. You can get involved in the best section, which is the solar section, right, Kim? But if you like doing nighttime observing, we have eclipsing binaries, exoplanets, long period variables, spectroscopy, and all sorts of things. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kristine. That was wonderful. I have read that book, Under the Glass, and it is excellent. Just an excellent book. I really encourage anybody to take it out of the library. The center, unfortunately, doesn't have a copy yet, but it just might get one. And go ahead and read it because it is very good. So does anybody have any questions? Kristine? Anybody from Zoom land?
While I am here and you're thinking about your questions, I want to publicly thank David Levy for everything he has done for the astronomical field over his career. I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to say I am among the great here. So thank you. Thank you for all you have done.
Excellent. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a question, a comment.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Okay, I do have a comment about your very wonderful. First of all, I really enjoyed this presentation, but a little bit of an addition about Bart Bach. When she came in, she was absolutely terrified. Ran in and spoke to Bart Bach, and Bart said, "Well, come in, sit down. What's the problem?" And she said, "Well, Dr. Shapley wants me to go and get a PhD, and I'm not smart enough to do that." And Bart said, "Of course you're smart enough to do that." And they talked about it back and forth. And finally, Bart said, "The conversation is over. If God tells you to get a PhD and Carlos Shapley told you to get a PhD, you have to get one." And that's what convinced her, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add that wonderful story.
Yeah. And there's another story about her taking a paper and just sort of like shyly sliding it on a desk for them to read. And they were like, "This is good stuff." She was always in her brother's shadow. You know how it is sometimes when you have an older sibling who goes to school before you and you get compared to that. And Dora was always compared to her brilliant older brother, Herbert. And she was the one who became famous. And if you pushed her, she would tell you, "Yes, I'm the one who became famous, the dumb sister." So, yeah.
Well, she was really something. I knew her at briefly in the 1978 AAVSO meeting. And she was, we were all getting set up for the photograph, the group photograph in front of Building C, I think. And they had a lot of greenery around the building. And Stuart says to everybody, well, would anybody in this picture like to join me in the bushes? Yeah, she just had this wonderful sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Excellent.
we've got Dieter Bruckner with a question.
I'm just wondering, can you tell us anything about Helen Hogg? I think she was also at Harvard initially before she moved to Canada.
Yes, yes, she was. And a lot of her work was on globular clusters. And my favorite story about Helen Hogg was when she had her, I believe it was her first child. She had to have the baby with her in the observatory so that she could feed it, to breastfeed it. And somebody was visiting the observatory and was like, there's a baby in here. They're like, oh, it's okay, it's the Hogg baby. It was like, to the people who knew Helen, it was like, this had to be done. You have to do it. But to other people, it was like, oh, clutch your pearls, there's a baby in the observatory. So times have changed, thankfully.
Okay, Kevin
Excellent.
has a question for Kristine. Just bring me up here. Where are you from there, Kristine? Is it anywhere near Boston?
I am halfway between Boston and New York. Boston is that way, New York is that way.
Let me spotlight this just because. There we go. Okay.
I see the Bruins shirt. Yeah.
Take that. Kim can correct me, but we've read through all of a lot of the histories of the women computers, and a few years ago, before the COVID epidemic, we actually went to a stage play in a nearby town, and it was just amazing. And I don't know, maybe it's just me method of imparting data and knowledge impacted me far more from seeing it live on the stage. And even that still sticks with me today,
It
even
was
though I
called
forget.
Levitt Stars.
There we go.
It was very good.
Yeah. No, I've heard of it. Have not had a chance to see it actually perform, but I have heard of it. But yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Is this is live, right? Testing. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to show this
There we go.
book here. Just got this for my birthday a couple of days ago from my wife.
Oh, so you paying Kapashkin, yeah.
Lily Payne Kapashkin, who
Yep.
was the first person to determine what the composition of the stars was. So
That's right.
I was one of the team at Pickering's Theorem.
And you're going to write a book review on that, aren't you? And send it to Andrew, our newsletter editor, so the rest of us can read it.
Okay, excellent. Is there any more questions? I think Kristine needs to have a rest on her throat here.
I'm not seeing
And
any.
again, I'm sorry about the sounding like Lauren Bacall or whatever it was, but I made it through.
Thank you for putting up with that and giving us this excellent talk. A lot more research. I'm going to go back and look up a few more books that I have at home on these particular women. But thank you so much, and take care. And if you want to stick around, go ahead and stick around. We're probably going to take a 5-minute break right now, but if you want to come back, come on back and sit and listen.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, we're going to have a 5-minute break. We'll see you in a bit.
No, Michael.
Okay, Susan,
Like
is
a
this thing?
picture
Oh,
of the-
Susan's gone.
the book,
Just gonna
yeah.
ask for a quick check
Some guy
here.
in the States.
We're gonna try sharing the PowerPoint again. The last few times it did that, it kicked us out.
Did you say something, Kevin?
Hello,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah,
This
I
is
can hear
Kevin.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you to watch as I quickly try to share the PowerPoint again, because 3 times it kicked us out, and it's not supposed to do that, and it never has before.
Yeah.
PowerPoint. I don't even see it here anymore. It's a very tiny, simple PowerPoint too. I don't understand why it's doing that. Okay, let's switch to page.
Maybe it's because you're using not PowerPoint, but
It could be the translation to LibreOffice, yes, but again, it's never done that before. And this is what we've always used. Okay, here we go. Let's share the whole screen this time. Okay, that did not work. We got kicked out of Zoom and it reconnected again. I'm going to try sharing a picture because I'm sure that we're going to have some pictures here someplace.
One thing that did not happen is it doesn't seem to have affected the recording like we
Nope.
got booted out last time.
Yep, that's all on your end, the recording part. So, okay, let us try to share an image. Okay, well, that totally failed, and we're rebooting the computer now. Yes, the computer is restarting. And wow, that's never happened before.
Yes.
In the security thing, the share screen part is not clicked on.
Correct, only co-host can share.
Okay. Okay.
And we're just waiting for our laptop to reboot here.
Just a stab in the dark.
That's okay. It gives everybody time to take a bio break. So I'm going to switch cameras so that you can look at other people. No, I guess not.
Yeah, I guess we could talk a little.
Got to go along with the suspense theme.
We're not going to blast everybody in the room, are we?
I hope not.
Ah, too bad. I wanted to hear how dinner went. I think it sounds like the restaurant of choice is the brew pub.
Okay.
That's what, 3 weeks in a row or something maybe for that. So
Yeah, 2 or 3.
yeah,
I like the brew pub.
me too. Yeah. me
Haven't
too.
been there in ages, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
however. I won't be at next week's meeting. The social.
The social.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be away.
In Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be bacheloring it at home for a day.
Oh.
The hardship.
Will there be casseroles in the freezer for you?
Probably not.
We're going to try it one more time, folks. We had to reboot.
I think
the
you can
computer
handle
this
it,
time.
John. I think you can handle it.
And,
Hey, we got a square boy nearby now.
That's what I'm gonna
And
say.
Subway.
There's pizza and beer.
Okay, we're just going to test one of our next, I'm not sure where Rick is in the lineup, but we're just going to test sharing.
John's gonna be next.
I'm gonna have to set a connection here.
And then golf starts at the first of Wednesday in May.
Susan? Susan, are you there?
I am here.
I have some money for you.
Money
Money.
transfer?
Sold the book.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. That's good. We'll get together in the next little while.
Sure.
Okay, last test of the night, and if this doesn't work, I give up. Okay, that failed horribly, so we're not going to be able to share screen from our location at all. The best I can do is aim the webcam at the screen as the people are speaking to it. Okay. So Rick, I don't know if you heard that, we crashed again. So what we're going to do is we'll still run the display and I'll point the webcam at the screen. It won't be as high resolution, but that's okay. We will make workarounds of technical difficulties.
No, John's up next, and then you're up.
Okay, so.
Okay, everybody, I guess we're gonna head back to our meeting now.
You have such a soft voice.
What's that?
You have such a soft voice that
Oh.
people in the audience don't hear you.
Time to get back to the desk. I don't have a strap, so I can't do that.
Do we have the budget for a gavel?
I think we do.
I have one.
Okay, so next up, we're going to have an update from John Hurley, our National Council rep, who wants to give us a presentation.
Hello, everyone. As many of you know, there's a lot going on at National Office right now, but unfortunately, I do not have a whole lot of answers about the more recent issues and emails that are roaming around on the web there, but we're trying to get some answers from our board. In the meantime, we have a General Assembly coming up, and this will be the fun part of the traditional GA. The annual meeting will be held at the end of June, and that's where all the fireworks will be. But in the meantime, for the General Assembly, which is the fun part of being part of a national society, there is now a link on the main webpage for the RASC. So if you just go to Society, General Assembly, here's the link for this year's GA, which just appeared yesterday or so. And tickets are on sale. For members of the society, it's $35. If you're a non-member, it'll be $40. But they will also be getting in the mail a parcel of various swag for that, contents of which we do not know yet, but last year's take was pretty interesting. There are some guest speakers listed and some to be announced. We have somebody from the Canadian Space Agency, some Skylore, Dr. Linda Shore from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. These are going to be, these three speakers are like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday type. They're the keynote speaker of each of the days. And then we have a bunch of other talks going on during the day. There'll probably be some from the members of what's going on. And there will also be astrophotography contest for any of you people out there that are interested in submitting your work. If somebody wants to submit some posters of some work they've been doing. There will also be an event called Gather Town, where everybody takes on a little avatar, goes roaming through a space station, and we all talk to each other live from coast to coast to coast and around the world. There's usually somebody from outside of Canada there also, but other like-minded people. And it's really interesting to chat with other people about what they're doing and where, and meeting some of the names from the email lists that you come across or some of the other events. It should be really interesting. The GAs have been a lot of fun over the years. I can't recommend it enough. I think everybody should attend, and with it being online, it's a bit different than in person from years past, but I find it's still been pretty interesting and fun overall, and you don't have the travel time. And here there's an observatory tours. Various members on the Friday night will be giving virtual tours from their home places. So like I say, if you've got any ideas for what you want to do at home, there'll be a wealth of ideas and people to talk to and pick their ears sometime during the weekend. That's about all then. And
Okay.
thank you. And as usual, if anybody has any questions, please let me know,
Kevin has
and
a
we'll see
question.
what we can do. Oh, yes, Susan.
Is there any rumors about anyone hosting a live GA in 2024?
Not that I have heard of. There has been some talk about trying to go back to live, but it's dependent on a center volunteering to take this on. And at the moment, nothing's been mentioned at the National Council meetings about anybody. There was a center thinking about doing this year's GA, but that never materialized. That was a year ago. So hopefully somebody will step up and start this up again, because overall, people like the in-person aspects of the GA. Getting to meet people, sitting around in a room, having a few beverages, chatting away. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun, a lot of knowledge shared back and forth and around. Anybody else with any questions?
Testing. Kevin here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, questions. Can you show the dates again? Because I missed that at the top of your spiel, and then throughout the rest of the thing, you said Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but there was no dates, and I have no idea when that is.
Okay, let's go back to here.
Friday. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
they should put the date on.
The date should be on every page.
There
Just
we,
to be
yes, they
so
should
in
be. Here we go.
tiny print.
Beginning of May, May
Oh my
5th,
goodness.
6th, and 7th. So it's coming
And
up fast.
Now, this question may verge more on the political. Do we have any idea of the team organizing this? Who they are?
I think Samantha.
Not really. Mostly been through national office.
Yeah, yes, but we don't know who's left working or standing at national office. That's
There's I'm drawing a blank on her name. She did last year's GA. She's still helping with the GA, even though she's not on the staff now.
So you're thinking Samantha. Okay.
Samantha, yes.
Yeah. Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
young lady I was trying to think of.
Thank you.
She's a real firebrand. Go get her.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you, John. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Rick. It's what's up in the sky for April and May.
Okay, so we're going to bring this up.
We'll see if this works.
Apologize that we can't share this. So what I'm going to do instead is point the camera at it. Oh, technical questions from Rick. How do we know if it's going to be pointed? What just happened? Did we just lose our Zoom again? No, it's still there. Okay. Okay, so let us point this so that see the whole screen.
Ooh, that's weird. You're gonna have.
I can't, there we go. I can do that.
Wow, sorry, folks.
Yeah. And here, you want to put the microphone on?
Alright,
Or
I'll
just
just
hold
hold
it?
it.
Yep.
Since I don't have any keyboards to control.
And there we go.
We hope everybody at home can see this. So, sky for April. Well, it's astronomical events. Now, can I control it or? yeah?
Absolutely.
Just. All right, so local events. Tomorrow, I've forgotten now, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is the last of the departmental seminars for physics department. David Curtin from U of T talking about physics beyond the standard model. River song. That's
Oh.
interesting.
Delete that.
So yeah, and it was mentioned earlier, Derek Muller is he's the guy who hosts the Veritasium web blog. I'm not sure what you call them, but very interesting stuff, talks about interesting physical questions and stuff. I'm sure he'll be a great speaker. And then of course, the observing, and 13th of May, Science Rendezvous. So there's not a great deal going on. We're getting into the summer months. So like Queens is basically shutting down. AAVSO webinars on the 29th, they have their regular webinar, how-to webinar, how to model isochrones using images of star clusters. This is something I've been working on for years and have not yet completed any talk on it, but maybe this will spur me to do it. On the 6th of May is, I believe, International Astronomy Day. I'm not sure. But anyway, they're having a special how-to webinar that Saturday on doing variable star outreach. And these ones are all available to non-members of the AAVSO. Lennox and Addington Deep Sky Viewing Area on the 14th and 15th of April, that's this weekend already, are having their monthly laser guided sky
And they
tour.
have a new
They've
telescope.
started, yes, they have the 16-inch from the Fred Lossing Observatory. And then on the 22nd of April, astrophotographers assemble. I think this is, I'm not sure what it really consists of, but I think the idea is that you get a bunch of people up there taking photographs. And so everybody's using their laptops and nobody can complain bitterly because you're destroying my dark adaptation because everybody's imaging. Yes, Mark. Oh. Well, that's weird. Because, yeah, oh, no, I remember now. Yes, it's the April 29th is the special one. And the May 6th is the regular first Saturday of the month is their regular.
And remember the
how-tos.
LNA Dark Sky site has new renovations.
Yes,
So,
they've upgraded stuff,
upgraded
new
quite a bit.
fences and so forth. So should be interesting. Hours of darkness. You can see we're well past the solstice. And so we're losing a lot of our nighttime hours. Sun is getting higher in the sky, sort of, oh, this is May. Well, no wonder it looks so bad.
April's
Anyway.
better. April's better.
Yeah, April's better than this. So this is what you got to look forward to. So get out and observe while you can. Sky events, 13th of April. That's tomorrow, last quarter moon. Starting this weekend, sort of, in the evening sky, you can watch for the zodiacal light after sunset, and around midnight, you can watch for the Gegenschein, which is light retro-reflecting like off of dust in the plane of the solar system. The trouble is right now, the Gegenschein is going to be sitting right on top of Spica, which is a bright star and will probably completely wash it out. But you could give it a try anyway. 20th of April, new moon. Also late that, like this is just after midnight. So the following evening, very, very thin crescent moon, just 20 hours old, visible just after sunset. It will be very low. Mercury will be about 6 degrees above it. So for instance, if you have a pair of binoculars, you can find Mercury and go straight down, and that'll be a guide for the crescent, because when it's this thin, it is very difficult to see. The Lyrid meteor shower peaks on the 23rd of April. It's a relatively minor shower, but fairly good moon conditions, best after midnight as Lyra gets higher in the sky. 27th of April, first quarter moon, International Astronomy Day, on the 29th of April. And on the 30th of April, the minor planet number 7, Iris, is at opposition at magnitude 9.5. May events, 5th of May, full moon, and on the 6th of May, the Eta Aquarid meteor shower, going to be washed out pretty badly by the full moon. Oh, that's right. There are essentially no asteroid occultations, that kind of thing, in the coming months. So that's that.
No BAA talks?
No BAA talks. They're all in person only.
Yeah, there was one
It's
that
very
was
sad.
230 pounds to go to it.
Plus airfare.
Yeah.
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Okay. Next up, we will have our members observing reports. We'll do a round table. We'll go around the room first. Let's start over here. Donna? No? Didn't go outside and look up? Okay, Steve? Nope, hang on.
I'm gonna walk the
coming.
microphone around. Okay. Okay.
Well, I've had 4 nights of imaging galaxies. I constantly add to my list.
Okay, where's the punchline?
Still have my new optics working.
That you've had the best weather of anybody here in this room.
And everybody's going to your place for the total solar eclipse. Hey, Brian?
Nothing.
I came all the way over here for nothing. Oh my goodness.
Next up will be Mark, as soon as Kevin gets there.
You're gonna say nothing too, aren't you?
No, I've had a few nights. It was windy a couple of nights, which just shuts me down because I've got a big field and it's fairly open. But I took some pictures of the whirlpool, which I've never really managed to get anything that's recognizable before. That was during, I guess the moon was about a third full, thereabouts. And it was very yellow, nothing that great. And then a few nights later, I took a picture. I thought I'd go back and try it again, and with no moon, and it's amazing the color that I got the second time. And I guess what I learned is the moon is really a pain in the butt sometimes. So other than that, I got a few other pictures of the Whale Galaxy and that, and it just seemed like a good night. I started out with just looking at Messier 65. And I usually take Messier 65 and 66 together, but I thought I'd just try looking at one of them. And I was one of those nights where you don't do anything different, but something just clicks, and the images just look a lot better than what they ever have before. So it was kind of nice to get a bit of a surprise and get something a little better than usual anyway. So I'm hoping to continue on with that.
Okay.
Would that be the prevailing northeasterly winds from Battersea coming your way?
No, they go over there, but he's got a line of trees that stops him, I guess. So.
Okay. And tomorrow night, Mark is going to lead a tutorial on Sharp Cap. What? You forgot about that.
No, I've got to go to Ottawa Airport before that, so I should be back in time. And I know Kevin has put out kind of a Zoom invite. And we're kind of trying to go through Sharp Cap and how to some of the settings that I use and some of the simplified methods I use. And there's so much to it that it's hard, but I keep it pretty basic, and we'll just see if we can figure things out and how to do things better.
Yep, because 2 to 3 hours of me using Sharp Cap resulted in absolutely nothing being usable.
Excellent. Rick?
Well, weather this winter has been absolutely fine. However, the past week or week and a half, I managed to get in, I think, 4 or 5 nights. The Boltwood scope continues to chug along. The Hank scope, I was having a lot of troubles with the Gemini and then with the computer that runs it all, but that is now finally working again. So, and in fact, working better than it used to. The mount now parks when the computer tells it to park. So I get a full night of observing with the Hank scope. And then I've actually even had 2 nights, in spite of it being California, there's actually been 2 nights of observing with the remote telescope, which has also been rained out or snowed out. One day I looked at it to see if I was going to be able to observe, and there was 70 centimeters of snow on the roof of the building.
Wow.
Needless to say, they didn't open. But it's been an awful winter in California. I've had like 5 or 6 nights when I would normally have had 30.
Unless you live there and they're just so thankful for all the precipitation and moisture. Not the floody part, the droughty part.
So anyway, so the last week has been very good, and the forecast right now looks very good for the next few days with very little moon in the picture. So it's
You must get very confused looking at Battersea weather, Elgin weather, Kingston weather, and California weather.
it all seems to work.
I have trouble enough
I'm-
with Kim saying, what's the weather like going to be like today? And then forgetting immediately thereafter. So.
Yeah, well, the one advantage I have is that California weather is all 3 hours later, so.
He's a meteorologist.
Yeah.
We didn't want to mention that.
Jeanette,
Oh, let's see. Easter Sunday night, we were coming back from dinner at the neighbors, and there were clear skies. So I looked up and I found the Big Dipper and the North Star. So that was my observing.
so are you
That is-
able to see Venus from your area?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, through the trees.
through the trees. Yeah. Okay.
So-
That is amazing.
Yes. Did you see Mercury?
Nope, I need a camera person.
Lori?
Oh, I observed a talk this last month on the Fast Radio Sky at Queens.
By
Victoria Caspi.
Caspi. We saw that too, but we were in the comforts of our pajamas.
I looked around the room. I didn't see anybody there that I recognized, but
Especially not in the
yeah, nobody in pajamas. It was fascinating. Did you find it fascinating?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've heard her talk before about that in the last 6 months or so from some other organization, but yeah, it's still fascinating.
Yeah.
Chime is where it's happening, folks.
Yes, it is. Elena,
Are we talking about the aurora? Is that this past month?
I don't know. Did you
March
see it?
the 23rd.
It was amazing. Everybody, all your photos were amazing. And I loved every one of them.
And
you.
where are yours?
Well, I took what I thought were clouds. I took with my old iPhone a photo, and I did get the green.
Awesome.
Nothing
Awesome.
about it, but I was thrilled.
Awesome.
So,
That's
yeah, thank
great.
you, everybody.
There are days that I think I'm going to get rid of every piece of equipment I have and just use my smartphone on a tripod. I'll tell you.
Hey, Mark.
Did the lens crack?
Did the lens crack?
Yeah, no, I've done some solar observing. It's been fun. And also spent a couple of nights just looking through the galaxies of the spring sky. Other than that, that's about it.
That's it?
Yeah, no pictures, sorry.
Ah. Some
Well,
people, some people's kids.
Yes, well, it is still species. So.
Andrew. Oh,
Well, hang on,
Roger.
we're gonna get Roger here, who's running away from us.
Roger, you're running away.
Thought I was gonna get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I've finally got a piece of equipment back from Greece. It arrived the other day and I ran down to the observatory to go ahead and install it. It's a dual motor focus controller from Pegasus. and it runs the Meade zero image shift focuser, and it will also, however, run a stepper motor as well, just by flipping a software toggle switch in their software. The one I originally got was broken, and it has taken an awful long time to sort out what was going on with it, and then send it over to Greece, and it finally arrived back. So it's now hooked up. I have an F63 for my 12-inch bead. So it's now running at about 1890 millimeters of focal length, 300 millimeters of aperture, and I'm really looking forward to having a good play with this thing. The intent is to go hunting faint asteroids.
Awesome.
Well,
We're
you
still
should have a
looking for-
couple of good nights to do that in.
Yeah, that's exactly so.
Yeah.
We're still looking for people to do collections of Kingston-related asteroids every 6 months or every year, just for posterity and history. So tell us,
Do what I can.
is zero shift actually zero shift?
Yes. Yeah, because there's no mirror flop, right? Because there's a bead.
Yeah.
The mirrors flop all over the place. But no, there's no image shift with this. Nice piece of
Okay,
kit.
awesome.
Okay, Andrew.
Well, like.
Everybody, this is Andrew.
This is Andrew. This is the newsletter editor.
I exist, I'm not stuff up against. I'm actually a real person. So. Not a piece of AI software. I was away last month, as many people, some of you know, in the middle of Caribbean Ocean. So skies are very clear. So a lot of naked eye observing, but obviously otherwise distracted and didn't spend very much time on astronomy. One of the things I've been doing recently, because I'm about to start a lunar program, observing program, which I'll talk about next month in the member projects, but I bought a couple of neutral density filters. I've got a variable polarizing filter as well, just to sort of test out some of that, because I live in suburbia, and so there's a lot of light pollution where I am quite a bit. So I bought a couple of new filters for the telescope just to see how those will work when I get into that program. And actually, as Kevin mentioned it, I have some neighbors that are interested in joining me for that. So I bought also, Celestron has put out a new XYZ axis, basically a holder for your iPhone or your mobile phone, which you can attach to, like a Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. So it's going to make it much easier rather than everybody sort of hogging the eyepiece, so to speak. I can get people, they can get a phone, they can take a picture of the moon, and they can be satisfied. And hopefully I can sort of, you bring them to the water and just sort of, the first one's free, right? He's gonna get them through the door, and maybe I can get some of my neighbors to get more interested in amateur astronomy as well. So I'm gonna host that next month as well. That's it.
Awesome.
Okay,
Oh, thank you, Cameron.
Mike.
Proceed.
I haven't had anything. I haven't been able to observe at all. So.
Oh,
come on.
Yeah.
You came back from Arizona. You had to have done something down there.
string them up.
No, I haven't
String
been
'em
able
up.
to do anything. It's we had to go visit 90-year-old mothers up in Sault Ste. Marie, clouds and snow, and not home. So yeah, I brought equipment, but didn't get to use it.
Oh, that is just horrible.
Kevin.
But maybe tonight or tomorrow.
Kevin, wow. Kevin hates technology because it always fails when you least expect it and most need it. I posted to the chat list some imagery from my Google Pixel 6 smartphone here. And I am just continually amazed more and more at how good the freaking thing is at time-lapse wide field exposures. And let's point this at Kim. There we go. Oh, she's hiding behind the laptop. So the Aurora shots, we didn't get with the camera because we went to sleep on the night of March the 23rd, and the all-sky cameras were the ones that captured the Aurora. And had we known that it was going to explode at 11:30 that night, we would have stayed up, honest to God. I think the nights of the Google Pixel phone images were this past weekend. Can't quite remember that, but
You took pictures of the Aurora with it.
yeah, it's just phenomenal. And sometimes when everybody gets frustrated with their shifting focuser or their filters that don't work or the things that don't focus, yeah, just think about your smartphone, a tripod and an adapter, and just throw the rest of the stuff out. I mean, that's all I have for now.
Okay, who we got online here?
Uh,
Susan.
Here, I've got let me put up a list. Spotlight.
I was very happy to get back out observing after a bit of a dry spell. And strangely enough, I had never properly polar aligned my scope. I did a rough alignment when I set it up during the day last year when it arrived. And with the 4-star alignment, it was just, it was great. But I took a couple of minutes at shutdown the other night and actually polar aligned it, and it took no time at all. And I hope to get out there over the next couple of nights. I don't want to be too optimistic in case I jinx myself, but anyway.
So how close were you from your rough alignment to this alignment?
It
Good?
was really, really less than 2 degrees, really. Yeah, it was really close.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, next up, John. Thanks, Susan.
Hello. Yeah, I managed to catch the aurora thanks to our email notification list. We got outside and saw some of it. At the times Peggy and I were looking, it was, you could see the glow, but not colors. And then when I do a 15+ second exposure with my Canon D60, we would start getting more color, some of the reds and greens. And by 11 o'clock, just by 11:15, we were in and out, and by 11 o'clock, we were totally clouded over.
No.
So I think we missed all the really good stuff that we might have been able to see naked eye. And then I've been lucky. I managed to catch Mercury last week from the airport a couple of evenings, low in the evening sunset. And last week got some solar observing in. Saw a lot of prominences on the hydrogen alpha with the Coronado, and very few sunspots with the optical light.
Well, it's getting active.
So that was about it for that week.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next up on the list, we have Kathy Hall.
Nothing to report this month.
Okay, well, you saw the aurora.
No, I did not.
You saw the ice rain.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Okay, Colleen.
I'm assuming that's me. I'm from Kelowna, and I have not been able to do any observing this past month.
No. Well, there's always this month.
Welcome. Thank you for attending.
Yes, thanks for coming. Keith.
I have done a wee bit of solar observing, but we've had so much wind that it's been very difficult. And I'm in the middle of trying to convert my observation roof to motorize it, and I've run into a few problems, which I hoped I've cleared up. So I can't open the roof, so I had to bring everything out. And I don't know, a little while back, I put a 10-to-1 focuser on the back of one of the scopes, and I didn't realize the thing was so over heavy on one end that one day the mini tower suddenly decided to do a flip. And I had to take it all apart and fix that because there's a spring in there that holds everything tight, and the spring was really weak. And I got a hold of Vioptron and asked them if I can get another spring. And it was like $10 for the spring and about $50 to ship it. So I said, well, you know what? I'll just retemper the spring, which I did, and it worked out. So now I got everything up and running. And but once I hope this wind will subside. It's every day. It's like a tornado here.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like there in Yarker, but up here on the hills of Newburgh, It's, you know, terrible. And it's not a steady wind. You can handle that. It's all gusts. You know, you're just light breeze, and then whammo, you know. So I didn't get too much in, and I'm in the middle of doing some renovations in the house, which really eats into my time. So this month hasn't really been too productive for me, but anyway, it's slowly all coming to a closure, and hopefully the weather permitting, I will be able to do some serious viewing. And I might even try and take some pictures.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah, now that I got my little gizmo that goes on the back of my camera, which works really well. I don't know if anybody noticed it in Regulus, but
Oh, yes, we
I
did.
did write a little blurb about it. So it seems to work quite well. So anyway, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Okay, next up, Leslie.
Okay, so screen sharing is not working, is that right?
It's working for you.
It works for you.
Oh,
It
so
just doesn't work here in the
okay.
room.
So if I try to show something, can anybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because okay, so I did get to check on my observatory. It seems to have survived the winter,
That's good news.
and the cottage did too. And I
Good.
haven't taken any new pictures, but I'd like to, as long as I can show it, just briefly show a picture that I think I showed it last year, but essentially the same region appeared in June sky in the May Sky and Telescope, and then just compare the pictures, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Back. So what's going on here?
No, don't do the upgrade.
There. Okay, this is the region of M52. So let me just show that. Okay. So there's M52 and a whole bunch of nebulae. And the Sky and Telescope article is sideways, and I don't know how to rotate. So I can rotate this picture, but I might damage it. So I won't try to match the pictures, but let me just show this now. Here we go. This is it sideways. And the interesting thing I wanted to note is that they don't, in the list of celestial objects in there, they don't mention M52, which is up here. And I thought that was curious, that they're sort of concentrating on these nebulae and have forgotten about the star cluster, which was sort of my greatest interest in it. And I can briefly attempt to match that to my picture. I don't know what's going on here. Zoom browser. Yeah, there's M52 and it's rotated, and this bright nebula is here. And what's going on here? The zooming thing is over here. And this claw-shaped thing down here is the stuff over. Oops, where did that go to?
Oops.
This stuff over here. So I think that's, unless somebody has a question, this is about all I have to say on this. I was just my main interest is why have they ignored M52, which is still quite prominent there. Now, I think they're trying to suppress the stars a bit to show the nebulae better, but I don't know if I have more to say on that. So any comments or questions? I won't try to identify any of these. I have done that, and they all have sharpness numbers or NGC numbers or whatever.
Is this May's issue of Sky and Tel?
Yes, this is the May Sky and Telescope, page 74 to 75.
Okay.
In case somebody wants to look at the magazine there, and that's online. But this is from online. That's
okay. Yep. All right. Thanks, Leslie.
Okay, so I'll just stop sharing and disappear. Whoops, you kicked me out, it looks like.
You gotta watch that, Kevin. Okay, Peggy.
Pretty much the same stuff that John was doing. I was quite happy to go out and peek through the Coronado after he got it set up. And there was quite some activity happening with the sun. And I've seen a few of the planets with my naked peepers, and that's about all. We did miss the aurora, unfortunately, as we went to bed, thinking we were clouded out. Who would have known that, waited half an hour, it might have been clear. And sounds like it did from the kids that I've been at school. So I've been talking to the kids, and some of them actually saw it, but not that many, because they'd also gone to bed.
And didn't Peggy give a public talk in the last month?
I did last week, yes.
There you go. Tell us all about it.
On April 5th, yes. And I would like to do the sun sometime this summer, and hopefully get some help to do that with the seniors, and have them look through a couple of scopes while they're there. I think that would be kind of fun.
That does sound fun.
And so my last talk was on the Earth and how what we've learned about it since the lunar landings, using satellites and stuff.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have anything that they wish to bring up, talk about?
Looks like a pretty quiet audience. They're all falling asleep.
Yeah. Well, I think we can stop recording the meeting, Susan. And if we want, we can just chit chat after.